to the Week 11 preview of the BiddieCast. It's your host, Shawn Klein. Alongside me is Dave Fest. Dave, what are you eating there?
Just some butter noodles.
Butter noodles. I also see your child's the child eating area behind you there too. What's the number one go-to food of Josephine?
I mean, she likes animal crackers, but that's not really a food. I don't think it's the number one go-to. She likes almost everything that we feed her for the most part. So
anything completely off the list?
Like that she doesn't eat, you mean?
Yeah, like what's something that's just like
we haven't encountered that before. Like she hasn't outwardly like been like, I don't want that yet. So hopefully that continues. It'd be great if she wasn't a picky eater, but I mean, she's 16 months old. I mean, I think the pickiness really starts when they're like 2 and 3. So we'll see what happens.
I think it kind of continues as you age too. Like I've noticed that there are some things that I just don't like now that I used to love, and vice versa. There are things that I used to hate, and now I love them. So I think it kind of evolves as you grow and age. I don't think it's just a child thing, but
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Maybe you'll be blessed with a member of your family that just loves everything.
Hopefully, that'd be ideal. I doubt it. Anyways, let's talk about football.
Let's do it. This week, it kind of shook up the standings a little bit. We'll take a look at that shortly, but quickly break down this game where Itty Bitty Committee lost to Love Ben's Hugs, 108 to 76.9. What happened, Dave?
I mean, Ben's team just didn't show up. Got a big goose egg from T.J. Hawkinson, 15 points from Tom Brady. He wasn't able to start another quarterback. It was just a bad week for him. Injuries, bad performances. I mean, his team has been on the slide. I can't say it's bad luck because his team has been on the slide for like the last 7-8 weeks. So he's got a lot of work to do.
The Knob Slobbers keep their end of the bargain on this, and they keep steamrolling through teams, beating It's My Year Bitches 145.9 to 126.
Yeah, Dak and Zeke helped me to a win. Gotta love that. Best offense, one of the best offenses in football. I'll ride behind that until the day I die.
Yeah, they're pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah.
UK Bills also on a roll, beating the sliding Buffalo Angela 116 to 113. This is a close game, but UK Bills still comes up with the win.
Yep.
Anything you want to say on that, Dave, or you just yep?
Nah. Yep.
Just yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Cooper Kupp, probably MVP caliber year.
Oh yeah. Fantasy wise, yeah.
And you know what? That might be a talking point that we can touch on later on. Is talking about the NFL MVP, not quite fantasy MVP, but NFL MVP. I think there's a lot of players out there that you could name, including Cooper Kupp. Bennett like Beckham 147, beating the Killer Tomatoes 116. Bennett like Beckham keeps rolling through some teams too.
I mean, Mahomes had a huge game, 40 points.
That helps.
Yeah, and then also you got 22 points from Travis Kelce. I mean,
but you're also getting points from your bench in Dearness Johnston. Yeah. I mean, that's a player that. I mean, given that there's injuries in that team, and you kind of expect him to perform that level, a triple, he's third in the roster or whatever. So he's not the backup; he's the backup to the backup. Having them put up that many points, that's gotta be nice to see.
Yeah, 12 points from his defense. Love to see that.
Double D coming up with the win against the Muppets, 154.6 to 131.
Drops you to 500. What happened here?
Oof. I think it's just one of those weeks where there's nothing you can do to win. There's nothing you can do because the other team's just going to score more points than you.
Before we move on to the next game here, can we talk about Tyler Lockett? Like, that guy, he is either going to boom and get you 25, 30 points or get you nothing.
Well, I think it's interesting you bring up Tyler Lockett because I agree with you. He's going to be boom or bust. But I'm also going to scroll back a little bit to Buffalo Angela, because I think one of her problems here, one of the things that's been an Achilles heel for her in this latter half of the season, is Mike Williams. Mm-hmm. Mike Williams had some really nice, like, he was trending to be the top scoring wide receiver in the first 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then ever since then, he's really trailed off. He's become very quiet. And 7.3 points. It's getting to the point now for Buffalo Angela where she needs to start considering, do I stick in Corey Davis here? Do I try T. Higgins? And obviously when DeAndre Hopkins is healthy, he'll be in the lineup. So Mike Williams, who used to be, a go-to receiver for people, might need to start considering, hey, put him on the bench. And
I think the same thing goes with Herbert. I mean, Herbert, right along with him, was having a fantastic start to the season. The last 4 or 5 games, he's really dropped off. And like you have Herbert in your lineup. I mean, I would think that if you had any halfway decent quarterback on your bench, that you might consider, is Herbert worth, like.
Well, and let's be real. This is a 2 quarterback league. Justin Herbert in these leagues is a must start. He's going to start because, again, you're seeing boom or bust out of him, where he's going to get 30 points or he's going to get 15, and 15's still not bad. You would hope to get more consistent play out of him, but still, that 13, 15's not bad. I mean, look at the other side here. Lamar Jackson only got 17. I think really the difference in this game, and Carson Wentz only got 9. So really the difference in this game was in between the quarterbacks, where Double D just has more depth and his players just went off this week.
Absolutely.
Looking at the standings, what can we make of this? Double D and the Knob Slobbers clearly at the tops of their divisions. I think that basically locks you guys down with a playoff spot, even though there's 4 weeks to go here, or are we down to 3? I think we start week 14, right?
Yeah. So after this week, there's 3 more weeks left. So
yeah.
So 4 weeks here. I think UK Bills and I, with a win, can clinch a playoff spot. Well, actually, in his division, I don't know. He could fall apart. I mean,
any team could really fall apart, but at least with the points for, it's going to be tough for even you to catch up to UK Bills.
Yeah, depends what happens this week. But you look at the playoff percentage here. We'll get to the playoff bracket in a second. The 3 guys in the Biddies division have a north of a 90% chance of making the playoffs. 2 in the Bum Bums division, and then after look at Bennett like Beckham, that playoff percentage goes from 95, and the next guy is 25%. So, I think majority of the playoff teams are going to be in the Biddies division, and really, it's. I think after next week, if the teams that are up continue to lose, the guys who are on the top continue to win, I think we have a pretty good idea what our playoffs are going to look like.
Well, let's take a look at the projected bracket right now.
Sure.
Now, given that correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave. It's hard for me to keep track of all the rules that there are, but I believe we just take the top 6 teams, right? It's non-division bearing, correct?
That's what it looks like. We would have to double check on that. I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of each division gets a bye. But I think it's
either way. I think that's how it's going to pan out this year.
Right.
I just wanted to be
we'll double check on that.
I don't know if that's what we decided on.
Yeah, we'll double check on that. But yeah, I don't think just the playoff brackets, to be honest with you, is going to change much. I think you might get some movement between who is in the 4th seed, who is in the 5 seed, who is in the 6. I think 3, 4, 5, 6. There's going to be shuffling between those teams.
Well,
it sits right now.
You have 2 7 and 3 teams.
Sure.
You and UK Bills, and then you have 3 6 and 4 teams and 1 5 and 5 team. So it's very possible that the 5 and 5 or the 6 and 4 teams could slide out.
I think it's going to take a lot. You look at those teams from the outside looking in. Love Ben's Hugs, Anton's team, I think, is the only team that could go on a run and potentially sneak into the playoffs. I think Bitches, Committee, and Tomatoes, although they're still mathematically in it. That's just the numbers. I mean, the matchups and everything. I think that their seasons are pretty
Right.
much over with. So really, you have one team trying to get in, and it's an uphill battle for them as well. So it should be interesting to see how these as you mentioned before. I think UK Bills and myself, we're going to be fine. We're going to be in the playoffs. 3, 4, 5, and 6. It should be interesting to see how it kind of shakes out the next few weeks.
I'll go ahead here and for the sake of conversation, say there are two teams that I would visibly be concerned with that are currently in the playoff bracket. One of them's the Muppets, and the other one's Buffalo Angela. Now Angela had a little bit of a bounce back week this week, even though still had the loss. They put up some points, and I guess the Muppets did too. But the bottom line is, if you don't come up with those wins, you could easily slide out of there, especially
Sure.
if Anton's team keeps coming up with wins. At least one of those teams might be able to be bumped out, but I kind of agree with you. It's really an uphill. A lot needs to happen for Bitches Committee or Tomatoes to squeak into the playoff position.
Yeah, should be interesting though. Looking forward to the next 4 weeks to see how this shakes out.
Well, that takes us to the power rankings. There's a little bit of change at the bottom since Anton's team won last week. He moves out of hell, but the Killer Tomatoes are back in.
Yeah. Between Killer Tomatoes, Bitches, and Committee, I mean, it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall, seeing what sticks between those 3 teams to see what team really. I mean, when it comes to points scored, Killer Tomatoes is in the basement there, but all 3 of these teams, just not their year. Itty bitty by Committee. I mean, he's won one game in the last like 7 or 8. Started off strong, fell apart there. Killer Tomatoes has always had the weakest roster, but somehow he's got 2 wins, 3 wins. And It's My Year Bitches was a team that I thought was going to be great this year. And unfortunately, not their season.
And then that brings us to Anton's team at number 7. And that basically mirrors what the standings look like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think our power rankings pretty much, as you mentioned, look exactly like kind of similar to what the playoff is like. Anton's team, he gets lucky. I think he needs to win out. I really do think he needs to win out to get in. But I mean, it's not unheard of. I mean, I'm in a 7-game winning streak, so winning 4 games in a row, it doesn't seem like that tall of a task. He's got Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. I mean, and Stephon Diggs. You think he can get some big games in there?
Well, and definitely that's one of the reasons why he came up with the win last week too.
Oh yeah, because of Diggs and
someone who's trending the wrong direction here is Buffalo Angela.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe its first year jitters. Started off strong, was number 1 in our rankings in our hearts for the longest time, and fallen 6 spots since then.
But I will say she hasn't changed much in the last maybe 2 weeks or so. Kind of maintaining in that spot, and I think that just goes to show where the tiers have really shaped up to be this year. I don't think we're going to see as much movement as we really saw at the beginning of the season.
No, I'd agree with that.
But speaking of another team that hasn't moved in quite a while, the Muppets. Here you go. Actually down 1 spot, but I don't think they've been any higher than a 4 or any lower than a 6.
So how do you feel about your team here? 4 weeks left.
Worried.
You have a playoff spot. You probably pretty good chance, but a couple week hiccups, like 2 hiccups throughout the next 4 weeks could really do you in.
Yeah, and you and I were talking before the show about how you're in multiple fantasy leagues, and I'm in a couple. I'm not in as many as you. It's just that's just way too much dedication. But for me, I'm in kind of the same position in all of my leagues where I'm just looking to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think I've got a good team. Like, I think week in, week out, I've got a team that can compete. But they're just not coming up with the wins lately. And I don't know if it's bye week stuff. I know injuries have to do with it. Like David Montgomery, for example, has been injured. He'll be coming back. Antonio Brown's been injured. He'll be coming back. a lot of injuries out there. And then I mentioned Mike Williams and you mentioned Tyler Lockett earlier. A little bit of inconsistent play from guys that are on some of my teams. So I think five's where they should be, but I think a fifth place team or even a sixth place team in most leagues can compete with those top 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. Just because of the way the rosters are looking and those boomer bust players week in, week out. All you need is one guy to go off.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Double D, another nice team.
Yeah,
He's really shaped his season up.
Yeah, I mean, I think outside of the first couple seasons when he was trying to get in his stride, he's always been in the top 4. I mean, I had him ranked number 1 for a while. A couple losses here and there has kind of dropped him down to 4, but still a solid team. Really good team. And I think he can do some damage in the future, You look as it stands right now, I mean, if he's he'll be paying the 6th seed Buffalo Angela. Certainly if I'm in the playoffs, I don't want to face Double D to start off. I want if I get the bye, I want some team to do damage and potentially beat him. But he's a guy I don't want to face in the playoffs right now.
Well, also cracking the top 3 here is Bend It Like Beckham, another very solid team.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on him going forward in the playoffs here? We've always said he's got a good roster,
right,
all season long.
Right, he's got a fantastic roster. I think it's really a log jam at the top 3 positions. I know the 7-3 teams have obviously one game on everyone else in this area, but I think all these teams are just as good and they can compete week in or week out. Are you how confident are you that you're gonna be able to outscore Bennett like Beckham? I think it's yeah, I'm not, so
yeah.
Just an excellent team, excellent roster. I actually think he deserves to be up here in this tie for first place between yourself and UK Bills.
Yeah, I mean, again, UK Bill's been the top point scorer for majority of the season here. So I get why he would get ranked in that top spot. He has tied for the best record, most points scored, but 7 wins in a row. I mean, in my opinion, that's something you can't shake a feather at here. But big matchup, and this is a great segue right into our predictions, or talking about predictions for this upcoming week.
Yeah, this is a big game. That's Sunday Night Football. That's Sunday Night Football right there.
And if it's not Sunday Night Football, I mean, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz are definitely announced in this game.
Right? Yeah.
Sunday Night Football.
Let's see if I can annotate this. I don't think I can. Anyway, we'll get to it in a second. You got Buffalo Angela beating the Muppets. I've got the Muppets. Not going to bet against the team. Any reason why you just chose Angela? You just trying to be contrarian here?
I mean, it's not like one of those. We're in a competition here for these picks. I have a pretty healthy lead over you right now at 6 games.
You're just trying to build it, huh?
I think Angela's got some better matchups coming in this week, and I think she got a better roster than you.
All right, you're also going your team over the UK Bills. I am not, but let's talk about this game for a second because this is going to be a big game. You two are both tied for first place. One of y'all is going to lose.
Good tie, I guess.
I've seen it happen probably once in the last 20 years.
I don't think I've ever seen it happen. But yeah, I mean, someone's got to win here. If you asked me, not only do I want to win here, but I want to win by maybe 20, 30 points because I want to close that gap in the point total, because even though I would be ahead of them because our head-to-head is better and I'd have a better record, I want to be that guy that's like, not only did I get first place because of my record, but I also scored the most points. Big matchup. This is going to be very exciting to watch seeing how it all shakes out here.
Yeah, that's prime time. That's Alan Chris right there.
Yeah.
Double D, Killer Tomatoes. This is probably like Spiro and Jay Feely.
Well, I mean, with Double D being a playoff contender, that draw is like maybe like your tier 2 announcers, like Greg Gumbel and Trent Green.
Okay,
they would get this one.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both going double D on this though. I don't think
It's funny that we're talking about the announcers. I think maybe going forward, me and you should
we
say
need
what
to add the
announcers.
announcers to it.
100%. Yeah, we should do that.
Bend it like Beckham and itty bitty committee. Any faith in the committee to get out of the dumpster right now?
No, no, no.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And then it's my year, bitches, and Anton's changing team name.
Big game for Anton here. If Anton can get a W here, I mean he's still right there in the thick of it. But if Paul and the bitches can get an upset win here, I think Anton might be have to file the season away, and I think we might have our playoffs locked if Anton loses here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot can still happen this week because we do have a lot of teams facing like some dumpster teams facing some good teams, and if there's an upset or two, wow, that could change everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, right now I'm kind of just hoping that Paul wins, just because it would basically tear Anton's ACL in his effort to make the playoffs.
Yeah, his offense line would get COVID.
Yeah, it would make it very difficult. Not impossible for him to play it, but
Right.
make it very difficult. Players to watch this week. I've got AJ Dillon. It seems like every time they put him on the field, he puts up points. The question is, who's really going to get the rock? Is it going to be him or Aaron Jones?
Right.
And it's just weird because if you own AJ Dillon, you got to be pulling your hair out because you're like, do I start him this week or don't I? Do I sacrifice 30 points or not?
Right. Yeah, he's a tough play, especially in that offense that it's Aaron Rodgers, and then you got Devontae Adams, and then Aaron Jones, and then really, I mean, AJ Dillon is a fantastic running back, right? He's a dual threat. He's a great pass catcher. But again, you're behind Aaron Jones. You're not gonna, as long as Aaron Jones is healthy, he's a main guy out there. But I kind of liken it to kind of what over in Dallas, how they have Zeke, who is clearly the main guy, and then Tony Pollard, who is a fantastic backup, and that guy can get you some points, but he doesn't.
He needs the touches though.
Or even like Madison behind Dalvin Cook in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of teams who have really decent running backs who, if they were starters, they'd probably be pretty decent, but they're behind all stars. So it's tough for them to get on the field and see touches, but when they do, they have the ability to blow things up and get big points. But you're taking, like I said, you're taking that risk. You're like, I have this guy who's clearly starting, who's good for maybe 15 points, but also AJ Dillon might get me 25, 30. And especially this time of year, I mean, are you taking that risk, or are you going to play it safe?
Right. Speaking of taking risks, what do you think of the risk that Cam Newton took coming back to Carolina?
I mean, he got paid. The guy's getting almost $10 million if he breaches all his incentives.
Well, and as he should. I mean, there's not a quarterback in the NFL not making $10 million.
Right. Well, I mean, some of the rookies that are starting, but I mean, you look at this team. I mean, who else would they have? I mean, Sam Darnold clearly, even though he's hurt, is not the answer there. PJ Walker is, come on, let's not fucking fool ourselves here. He comes in, he signs a contract, he gets playing time the next game, gets 14 fantasy points because he runs for a touchdown and throws for a touchdown. And then he's immediately a starter in the league. So I scooped him up because why the fuck not? I don't think I'm going to be playing. I have him in my starting roster. Between him or Kirk Cousins, I don't know if I'm going to stick with that. I think he's projected to score more points than Kirk Cousins. Or is it Kirk? Kurt Cousins. But I mean, he's kind of like Josh Allen in a sense that I'm not saying they're like equal quarterbacks right now, but the guy can throw touchdowns, and he's also physical where he can scramble and get.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's any secret. One of the reasons why Bean and McDermott liked Josh Allen was because he reminded them a lot of Cam Newton. What kind of surprises me here is, why was Cam Newton off on the sidelines for so long anyway? You can't tell me there wasn't one team out there that needed a quarterback. Houston, Miami, Washington.
I think a lot of teams, when they sign free agents, I really think a lot of teams when they're looking at a free agent, I think most of them put requirements that you got to be vaccinated. And he was not vaccinated until probably about 2 weeks before he was signed. So say what you will, whether you agree with that or not, but I think I understand whether when they bring on free agents, I get that, because you're going to invest the kind of money you want the guy to be healthy to fill in when you need him to fill in, and not spread COVID to your team and fuck you over. So I think that's why. Because I always believed the guy did belong on a roster. I don't necessarily think I would have agreed that he would be an instant starter because of injuries. And yeah, I mean, he's definitely the best quarterback on this roster. But
yeah, I mean, you go back to his time in New England, and then they drafted Mac Jones, and the writing's on the wall then. And then New England released him. It was, to be honest with you, it was kind of like shitty timing of New England to do it, because it was like right at the end of training camp or right at the end of preseason, right?
Yeah, but I think he asked for a release.
Oh,
I think they told him that Mac Jones was going to be the starter, and I mean, believe what you want about reports, but he was like, "Well, why don't you just release me?" So if he struggles, but you were sticking with this guy, boom or bust. You want him to develop. You don't want the fans calling for me to play if this guy struggles. I mean, that's what he says. That's why he says he got released. Will you believe it or not? I don't know, but I would.
It makes sense, and that seems like a Belichick thing to say too, you know?
Right.
But it's just amazing to me that he wasn't signed until now.
I think it all had to do with the vaccination. I think a lot of guys are out there who are unsigned. I think there's probably some halfway decent talent out there, but if they aren't willing to get vaccinated, teams aren't going to take a risk on them.
But then you even look at the New York Jets; they probably could have signed Cam Newton. But instead they signed Joe Flacco, who's not vaccinated.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think each team will be different. I think a majority of the teams probably operate under that. And that could be wrong. To me, it just would make sense that you have that rational. And I think the Jets probably also don't really give a shit because they know their season's already in the dumpster. They're not making the playoffs. Carolina's still got a chance. You know, they've faltered a little bit, but Carolina's still got a chance.
Yeah.
You know, a team like your top team, if something were to happen to Trubisky and he was out long term, or Allen, or any of the teams that are on the top, if they're looking to get a backup, I would probably I would probably assume, and you know what assuming does, but I would probably assume they're not going to sign anybody who's not vaccinated. Especially with all the, see what's happening with the Bills now with their offensive line, Spencer Brown. But I don't know. We'll see. I think the Jets are just like, trying to see what happens. And it's Josephine. What do you think?
Did we have someone that wanted to wish us off and into a new fantasy football week?
Say good luck, Josephine. Nah, she doesn't want to. Just fuck you guys.